we get to the Supreme Court, let's take a moment to consider what you just said there, that the US is fast approaching that grim milestone where more than 200,000 Americans will have died from the coronavirus. This as infections are rising across multiple states and as, of course, the flu season is also fast approaching. And yet somehow this incredibly is not the main story here. Much to the president's delight, he's only too happy to change that narrative and shift it, of course, away. The only story in town, of course, is the death, as you said, of Ruth Bader Ginsburg and the huge vacuum that she has left behind. Fill that seat, the new chant of Donald Trump's supporters, urging the president to press ahead and nominate a new justice to the US Supreme Court after the death of the liberal icon Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Well, I hope they hear. So the chant, this is a new one. Fill that seat. This is the chant.
And that's precisely what he plans to do by the end of the week, raising the stakes in what is already one of the most fraught election battles in modern history. Now, the prospect that a new conservative judge would tip the court's balance and could potentially lead to a reversal of key legislation at the heart of American culture.
Our reproductive rights are on the line. Our labor rights are on the line. Our right to health care is on the line. Our climate is on the line.
No confirmation before inauguration!
To have the ultimate say-so in all those aspects of American life is exactly why President Trump and many Republicans want to name a successor now and give conservative justices a more powerful majority on the court, and why protesters have taken to the streets to demand that they delay and wait until after the election.
I ask that they confirm Merrick Garland now.
They're crying hypocrisy because it was Republicans who refused to allow a vote on President Obama's justice nomination in the last year of his presidency on the grounds it was too close to the 2016 election and the new president should make the decision instead.
I want you to use my words against me.
Among those Republicans, Lindsey Graham, who may now regret saying back then that if the tables were turned, a Republican president should not be allowed to nominate their choice either.
So if a vacancy occurs in their last year, you can say, Lindsey Graham said, let's let the next president, whoever it might be, make that nomination, and you could use my words against me and you'd be absolutely right.
This is about power.
It's also about numbers. With a majority of 53 in the Senate, if more than 3 Republican senators defect, the vote to nominate the successor won't pass.
So I appeal to those few Senate Republicans, the handful who really will decide what happens. Please follow your conscience. Don't vote to confirm anyone nominated under the circumstances President Trump and Senator McConnell have created.
Those gathered outside the Supreme Court this morning were downbeat but definitive.
It's hypocrisy. It's a dirty game, and the American political system is on its knees now.
Also, a lot of sadness and sorrow is what drew me to come and sort of want to take it all in.
But as they mourn, the president presses on with a short list of finalists and a promise, he says, to get it over with. But this woman, like so many, preferring instead to pause, as she reflected on the feminist pioneer that was Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
To the greatest dissenter we know, thank you. You fought for us all until your last breath. Now it's our turn to fight for your legacy. Rest in peace. You've more than earned it.
Despite the bluster, as I said, this remains a numbers game. As I mentioned, if more than 3 Republicans defect, the vote will not pass. So far, 2 have said they will not push through President Trump's nomination. So it will only take 2 more for this vote to entirely fail. As for that nomination, we know that she will be a woman. The president has made that much clear, and that he will name her on Friday or Saturday. Before then, the body of Ruth Bader Ginsburg will lie in repose in the Supreme Court behind me there on Wednesday and Thursday. It will then be moved to lie in state in the Capitol on Friday, after which her family will hold a private ceremony in the Arlington National Cemetery, where she will be laid to rest beside her husband. Only when that is finished, the president has then made clear that he will immediately make his move.
Joining us now from Washington is the President and Chief Executive of the National Women's Law Centre, Fatima Gross-Graves. Fatima Gross-Graves, thank you very much for joining us. Surely it may be unattractive, but the fact is that there is a legitimate constitutional argument that President Trump can move to fill the seat while he's still in office.
You know, we're in a situation where our democracy and the Supreme Court as an institution that has legitimacy is really on the line. If they rushed through this nomination while people are voting, so voting has already started in the United States. There have been long lines in Virginia and North Carolina. People are already in many states voting in absentee. It would taint the court itself. It would taint our democracy. That is why Justice Ginsburg herself laid out that her most fervent wish was to respect the will of the people. And the people in this country are not clamoring, and we've seen polling on this, they're not clamoring for the Senate to be focused on racing through a Supreme Court justice. What they are clamoring for is that the Senate finally do its job and address this ongoing epidemic of COVID-19.
Well, forgive me for being a sort of doubting Thomas. I mean, there isn't really even enough time for the Senate to move on this anyway, is there?
So there really isn't the time, especially if they're focused on doing what they actually should do. You know, we're 40 days about out from the last day of voting in this country for this election. And so the Senate is usually not here actually in October because they are out doing the work of campaigning. But I just want to make sure that people understand what COVID-19 has wreaked on this country. There is a dramatic care crisis that's being borne mostly by women in this country. Essential workers are mostly women in this country. And the health situation with almost 200,000 deaths is dire. That should be where their focus is, and to the extent that they are working here in Washington. But they likely will be spending most of their time in district.
Well, forgive me, but there might be an opportunity here for Liberals to pick up a whole lot of votes in this matter.
Well, there's no question that people are focused on this issue. That, you know, Justice Ginsburg herself is an icon and a hero in this country to so many. Her legacy of establishing what it means to be equal under the law in terms of gender is profound, but she's also an important cultural icon really for younger people. And we've already seen the lines get longer after the news of Justice Ginsburg. I do think for women in this country, it's going to be motivating, especially around the idea about what it is that the Senate should be focusing on now. And people don't like the hypocrisy that's unfolding in the craven politicization of the Supreme Court.
Fatima Gross-Graves, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Thanks.